So welcome. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for being here.
So to the band, had you seen the movie in the theater before today?
The very first time it was at a place called the EMP, which wasn't the cut that we saw today, but we saw it with a lot of family and friends and locals, and Cameron came up, and that was the first time we were watching it. And so that was a theater, and then after that we would just watch the different edits. We worked together and it came through, but today was much different, and to see it with a real audience and people that weren't friends and family. I think that's what gave it a sense of feeling like it was actually pretty damn good.
So Cameron, I'll start with you. I mean, you think of great movies about music, great rock and roll films. Generally they focus on a particular show or a small period of time.
Yeah.
You know, you're taking this emotional journey over 20 years with the band and the fans.
Yeah.
That seems like a huge thing to try to tackle in 2 hours. I mean, how do you grapple with that?
I was really inspired by No Direction Home, the Scorsese documentary on Bob Dylan. And that's a huge subject that spans a long time. And I just love the way Scorsese, as a fan and as a musicologist and as a director, chose the chunk that he chose, examined the roots, and showed how the music was born. And I felt so satisfied and inspired. I wanted to listen to more Bob Dylan, and it felt like a Bob Dylan experience. So that was kind of my guiding light in making the movie with the guys. It's like if we can make a movie that lets you feel the way a Pearl Jam concert or record lets you feel, then we're in good shape.
Mm-hmm. But a Pearl Jam concert or a record has a different, I mean, the concert certainly has a different set list every night. You've got one movie, one group of songs that are telling the story. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you guys feel about that?
I feel like that the songs were diverse enough to show what our set list is like every night. And in the movie, they were very. First of all, it sounded great, you know, and that's what you want out of a concert, anyways, is to have a. I feel like I've kind of just been through a concert, you know, a little bit without sweating, but emotionally, certainly, I feel like that. It was a ride that was fantastic. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it seems like you're a band that basically has always let the music do the talking, and it makes it kind of clear in the movie it's for, you know, protective reasons, among other things. To Stone or Jeff, since you were there at the beginning, I mean, what did it take to get you to say, okay, come on in, Cameron, we'll open up to do a movie?
I just think Cameron's interest in doing it was the biggest inspiration. I don't think we would have taken this thing on had it not been all the pieces that fit together. And I think Cameron just, you know, being open to the task of looking through all this footage and seeing if there's a story to be told, or what's the story, what's the right story to be told, or sort of how does it really make a great movie, and how does it represent sort of the feeling that he has for the band. I think once we knew he was involved, then we just sort of trusted that it was going to be okay, you know. So without Kelly and Cameron sort of, you know, having a vision for it, I don't think, you know, we probably wouldn't have made it for another 20 years. If we were it would have been a while, probably.
Yeah.
And we don't get to hang out with Cameron that often, so it was sort of an excuse to hang out with Cameron a little bit. I mean, he's one of the great people to be in the corner of the room with, talking music and movies and art with, and so that was a bonus, added bonus to this whole process.
So when he showed up on the Seattle scene in the, what was it, mid-'80s?
Yeah, mid-'80s.
You guys let him in right away?
I met Stone and Jeff first. We were I was kind of researching the idea of doing a movie based in Seattle about people, some of whom were musicians, and I met Stone and Jeff, and I loved so much that Stone and Jeff were guys that had jobs and also played in bands. It wasn't like the LA experience, which is like, yeah, I live with my girlfriend, she pays for everything, I play at night, sleep all day. These guys are like, we pull espresso, we do this, we do that, and then we earn the experience to pay for our love, which is playing music and buying instruments and doing it. And so I met these guys and thought they were a great example of people who love music and chose to make music their purpose in life really responsibly and passionately. And like loving their music came from knowing and loving them as guys first.
So were there things that you guys saw in the movie that you'd forgotten about? I mean, it's amazing the kind of footage you dug up. There must have been some moments for some of you where you thought, oh, I don't remember that.
Backstage at the Cult show, for sure. This one of the shots that opens the film. I mean, first time I saw that, I was like, where was that? I mean, Josh obviously was shooting that footage, but I didn't remember Josh being there. And to sort of have a memory of something in your head that's probably drifted away from really what happened, as time goes on, as you tell the stories about. Because during that time, we took guys from the Cult down to the Vogue, and I remember Lars showed up, and so I told that story a lot. And then to all of a sudden get pulled back to really what it was like was pretty shocking. Like, I didn't know I wore hats like that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go down to Matt at the end of the table. I mean, were there moments that you cringed watching it, or you thought, oh, I wish you didn't have that in?
Yeah, Stone and I were commenting on I wore PJ pants for one show. Like, I had these long PJ pants. I was like,
Pearl
I
Jam
never
pants?
wear PJ pants when I play
actual
a concert.
pajamas.
Yeah. So that was a surprise. I normally wear shorts.
See, when you're Matt Cameron, that's about as bad as it can get. Like,
So were there finds when you were combing through all of this footage that were particularly, great? Like, oh, it was great that you got this. And was there like a holy grail that you couldn't find?
No, the Holy Grail really was the piece of footage of Kurt Cobain and Eddie slow dancing at the VMAs. That had been talked about. Some people didn't quite remember it even happening. Other people swore there was somebody there with a camera. So with the help of the people that had the footage and some people that really wanted to help us get everything, we did find that footage, and it's so powerful. I was watching it again tonight. It's just such a human moment, and it is what happens outside the glare of the spotlight. They were really in a blender of media explosiveness at that time, and so here was this moment below the stage while Eric Clapton is playing Tears in Heaven, where Kurt and Eddie got to be alone and kind of express themselves as people. And the fact that it was on film is amazing, and it's so poignant. We also had 1 million concerts that had been filmed, and I think the guys hadn't put a lot of it out. And then they were great enough at a certain point. Jeff says the movie kind of snuck up on them because we've been working on it for so long. At a certain point, we started calling saying, gee, we'd like to do some interviews and like do them in your house, so that they're personal and they feel like a conversation. So we started doing those interviews. And the guys really opened the door for us to look in all the nooks and crannies and see whatever we could find. And that's why I think we're lucky enough to have so many different things from so many areas of their lives, very little of which had been seen.
Eddie, what did you remember of that Kurt Cobain moment?
well, not that I had remembered it, but I saw it today for the first time, that the segment, maybe it was a little longer in the cut than what I had seen before, but it was, for a second the camera gets blurry or someone walks in front, and then actually you see Kurt look over and, you know, go like this, and it's not saying like, don't tell anybody, or, you know, keep a lid on this little private moment. It actually was because, again, on the stage above us, Eric Clapton was playing Tears of Heaven, which is a pretty quiet song, and we were jumping up and down and clapping and all that. So the first time I saw that footage, it was incredibly emotional. I think just because he's smiling, and you know, you just think that if he just could have pulled through. And you know, that's the thing about today. You know, maybe it's good that this movie kind of happened now, or not that we we've been in grateful mode and appreciation mode of each other for, I think, quite some time. You know, the last few years, I think, has been a real graceful period for us. But it really does kind of, it's a galvanizing kind of moment to look at each other, and it doesn't happen that often. You know, you look at all the crowd reaction, or the family of the family that is the people that come to see the shows, and it really, it's just music. It's just guitars and drums and bass, and it's something that, to have it turn into this other thing, this kind of monument in a way, and it sounds like we're I don't mean to self-grandize, but it's really something to see it and witness it, and in this case be reminded of it, have it right there in front of us so we can appreciate it even more, and know that we have a really strong base to like go the next 20.
I mean, I would think your goal always was to get beyond it's just music and push it to somewhere else.
But it's like catching a butterfly. You know, you can't grab it too hard. You can't just, you know, it's really a delicate thing. And these aren't just, you know, these are like five men who used to be teenagers or who met in their 20s. And, you know, if you've ever tried to order a pizza with 5 people, it's difficult. So to have gone to this other level of being able to, you know, create records and songs that are different than the last songs that you'd written, and put on shows and have each one be different, and just to be able to, I think we're all, one thing we're very fortunate with is, without having known each other for, you know, just having kind of come together at this quick moment to have all these people that are into long relationships. It's a very lucky thing. Because then you get to higher planes of communication, and higher planes of, you know, every time you accomplish another thing, it gets, there's another plane. You've kind of elevated again, and it kind of keeps going up. It doesn't stay this way or go down, it just kind of keeps going up, and that's a long relationship thing.
How did the last 10 years happen, and how did you survive? I know that's impossibly broad, but, you know, Mike, can you speak to that?
Wow. Well, with a lot of careful effort and talking to each other, I think, and hopefully having as clear lines of communication and open lines of communication between each other as possible. And that's still an effort, but I think we take the time to want to find solutions for the stuff that goes on in our band, if there's issues and problems and things, because I think we love each other, and I know we love each other, and I love playing music with these guys. So there's love, and there's understanding, and there's commitment, I think, and all of those kind of things that have helped us, and a lot of luck too, probably, and some timing.
Mm-hmm. Cameron, I was talking to somebody about this movie last night, and she was saying, well, it sounds fascinating, but where does this fit in Cameron Crowe's career? I mean,
at the top.
Thank you, Eddie. Agree.
So where does it fit in your career?
You know, I've always just wanted to be lucky enough to tell a good story. And I always felt the story of Pearl Jam is a great story. And it's beyond just a rock story. In fact, it takes the usual rock story and turns it on its head. The usual rock story is incredible promise, brilliance maybe, tragedy cuts it short. And aren't we sad that we've lost this wonderful opportunity? Pearl Jam is exactly the opposite. It's a tragedy that was surmounted, and these guys found joy through survival and from studying what had happened before in rock with some of their heroes. And in some ways, it was a hard story to tell because it's a happy ending, and it's not even an ending. But what it is unique. And all these guys, I think you can tell, approached their interviews open-heartedly, wanted to just put everything out on the table. And even Jeff said early on, I hope there's a little bit of group therapy that happens here so I can learn a little bit about my band. And, you know, every one of these guys, Mike, you know, just poured his heart out, and we just, all of us, I think, wanted to tell the story of how the music came to mean so much today and tomorrow. And so I'm just lucky enough I had the opportunity to help tell the story.
So Jeff, was there group therapy in there? Did you learn about your band?
Well, you know, I was listening to what Mike said earlier about how we've, you know, been able to get through things by talking and stuff. And, you know, really that first 5 or 6 years, there wasn't a lot of talking. A lot of times we would just put our heads down and kind of get to the next place and kind of look at one another. And, you know, we were just kind of holding on. I don't remember a whole lot of conversations about what we were going through at the time, because we didn't know what we were going through. And I think that's the beauty of watching this movie and kind of trying to make sense a little bit of that, that first 5 to 10 years. And but I haven't seen all the interview stuff but that was the thing that I got excited about when Cameron said, I want to interview you guys. And I was like, you know, I was just curious, like, good and bad, like, to hear, you know, Stone say they didn't want to be in a band with me anymore, and that stuff was all good, because when that was all going down, we weren't talking with one another. We'd actually we'd take a bike ride every day, like after Andy died, and we'd hang out for 2 or 3 hours, but we really wouldn't really talk about anything, you know. And I would sort of know, you know, I would prod, like, hey, I heard you're playing some music, and he'd be like, yep. and that was, but so you know, it's been great to see a little bit of what, you know, just how we feel about one another, because I think we occasionally tell each other, but you know, we're guys.
See, they had to pry this movie out of my hands. This could have easily been Pearl Jam 22 or 3, because this is great. And I actually, watching the movie tonight, I thought, damn, I had a great opportunity to ask Eddie a question, and I blew it.
Ask him now.
Okay, when you're on the plane.
Who made you, what?
Okay. Okay,
to
director's
moderate.
cut. Thank you. When you're on the plane coming up from San Diego to Seattle for the first time, like, what are you thinking? Are you thinking it could go either way, or are you thinking, I know in my heart this is going to work?
I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm on a plane. I offered to drive. Who are these guys that can afford a plane ticket? That's what I was thinking.
Wow. Okay, director's cut.
And
This is good.
And maybe, and then, like, well, no, I wouldn't say that. I was gonna say, don't fuck this up. But no, didn't I? I made I took a razor blade. That's back when you can bring razor blades on planes, because I would do collages I did some crazy collage, and I was just excited to play music. I'd been in a few different groups with some people that, you know, the nature of being in bands, you try to write stuff, or you play some covers, or do whatever, and you have stylistically, you try to figure, but it never felt like anything real. It never felt like anything that wasn't highly derivative of something else. And when I had heard the music that I got through Jack Irons, which is the demo stuff, instrumental stuff that Matt Cameron had played on, it was, I just heard something that I had never heard before. And to be able to be part of that, and really not knowing what would happen, you know, I thought I would have a week in Seattle, and it was like an art project. Just like the razor blade collage, it was just like an art project.
I think we can open it up to some audience questions. Right.
Hi, how are you? Juan Carlos from Mexico. I would like to know, at this point of your career, how do you feel? How do you see maybe 10 years from now, still playing, doing something else?
I think the same thing, just better. You know, I think we'll just keep getting better. And maybe just try to push the boundaries musically. I don't see stopping. I don't think any of us see stopping. And I think everyone's doing things outside of the group too, which I think is really healthy. So by the time we get back, we're excited to be back. You know, to not, you know, some groups will have like a record and then they'll tour for 2.5 years, and then they'll need to take 2 years off because they don't want to see each other, or they're just so wrecked and exhausted. And I think whatever way we're doing it, you know, it's still kind of reaching out in the dark, but it seems to be working. So it's not like you have a formula, but you've got something that you know. We just want to stay healthy. We have families. We want to just, we want to be dependable to not only each other, but, you know, the audience.